Identify the strongest evidence to support a conclusion. Let's read the following passage about the story of Pandora and see if we can find the best piece of evidence to support the following conclusion: that the story of Pandora is an origin myth, or a myth or sacred narrative that claims to describe the origin of some feature of the natural world. "Open, Pandora! Please, please, open and let us out!" But still she hesitated, not daring to raise the lid. Just then she heard her husband calling to her, and she knew that there would be no chance now to explore the contents of the mysterious chest. She must wait for that pleasure until another time. Meanwhile, she would take just one peep inside to be sure that the voices were not mocking her. So she raised the lid very gently, but no sooner had she made the smallest opening than out poured a host of tiny creatures like brown-winged moths, and they swarmed all around her, biting and pinching and blistering her soft skin until she cried out in fear and pain. It was not, however, until later that they realized the extent of Pandora's folly, for the little brown-winged creatures were all the spirits of evil that had never before entered the world. Here we've got one detail to support the claim that the story of Pandora is an origin myth. Their names were sickness and pain and sorrow, envy and pride and jealousy, hunger, poverty, and death. Yet, another detail that claims to describe how these concepts originated in the world. All these ills had envious Jupiter put into the oak chest and bound it with only a golden cord. Here we can see they're talking about the god Jupiter, making this definitely a myth or a sacred text. He knew that sooner or later Pandora would open the chest, and then man's life of untroubled happiness would be forever at an end. Clearly, this myth is meant to describe how the evils came into the world. Never again could the gardens of the earth be places where man might hope to find peace. So, which of these four details from the text is the best piece of evidence to support the conclusion that the story of Pandora is an origin myth? In other words, which piece of evidence gives the most detail that is relevant to the conclusion? The first piece of evidence vaguely describes how the creatures were all the spirits of evil that had never before entered the world. The second quote describes, in more detail, what these spirits of evil were. They were pain, sorrow, envy, pride, and concepts such as this. The third piece of evidence really just describes that Jupiter put all of these evil concepts into an oak chest. Lastly, the final piece of evidence describes how these evils ended man's life of untroubled happiness. So, which piece of evidence is the strongest to support the conclusion that the story of Pandora is an origin myth? I would say the second one, because it describes in the best detail, as accurately as possible, what the myth is claiming to describe. Pandora's box explains how pain, sorrow, envy, pride, and all of these evils originated in the world of the Greco-Romans.